Hello, everybody. Greetings from beautiful Toronto, Ontario, where I am stationed for the night and a 24-hour layover. Um, Coming back from Ireland. Long story. I'll tell at some other point why exactly I'm in Toronto has to do with my aviation nerddom more than anything else. Alex is back home in Georgia. I'll be home tomorrow night. Um, Wife and kid are sick at home, so I'm not really in a huge hurry to get back. Alex donning the GT hat there to start doing a little hat dance. Um,
Gotta be professional.
Appreciate everyone for joining us. I figured it'd be cool to go ahead and knock this out tonight since I'm traveling tomorrow. And I've been up since 1 a.m. Eastern time after not really sleeping much last night after the insane game in Ireland. As Georgia Tech knocked off number 10 Florida State in a game that I convinced Alex to pick Georgia Tech's way, and I was very confident going back all the way to July when I did my whole ACC breakdown. Everyone was so kind of surprised that I picked that game the way I did because I picked every game in the league, and just had a weird feeling about it. And DJU didn't exactly strike fear into me as someone who knows Georgia Tech a little bit. So thanks to everybody for following along. I'm sure it's been a wonderful weekend for everybody who would be tuning into a Georgia Tech podcast, or vlog, or whatever you want to call this. And yeah, let's go ahead and start diving into the questions, Alex, if you want to start rattling those bad boys off
For sure. All right, I'm gonna start at the top here.
before I fall asleep in the middle of this thing.
I'll carry it the rest of the way if you nod off. All right. First question says, now that the big win is over and we have seen the team in action, has your perception changed on where you see them finishing by the end of the year? Um,
I knew that one was coming. Um, I mean, like I said, the ceiling floor, is what it is. And this is exactly how I predicted it would go. I had Georgia Tech at 8-4, right in the middle of the ACC pack, in the hunt for the in a hunt with an opportunity to go to Charlotte possibly, and they've won. On paper, I guess what would be the hardest ACC game they should have this year. So, because they'll play Clemson, so the game at Louisville will be the next hardest one on the schedule, but every game's going to be hard from here out. They'll play Georgia State in their Super Bowl on Saturday in Bobby Dodd, and then they'll play, at Syracuse. We'll be very hungry and wanting to get some skin on Georgia Tech, and then you go to Louisville shortly after that. I think the VMI game's next, and then go to Louisville. And if you can go into Louisville 4-0, I think you have an opportunity to hit the ceiling part of my prediction. But I think that aside from that, you got to just take it week to week. That's what Brett Key wants to do. What I want to see this week, I just wrote about this in my column for my Sunday column, was this is the game where they've screwed up the last couple of years. Like even really since Jeff took over for Paul Johnson, they've just sucked in these bye games, and so um, beat Georgia State, beat them, make it not a 4-quarter game. I'm not saying Georgia State has some good athletes. I have no idea what to expect from them with the new staff and everything, but don't make it a 4-quarter game. Like it shouldn't be, not on paper. So I don't know. What do you think, Alex? You're probably a little more high on it as a natural born Tech fan, but
well, I
I'm trying to
mean,
be realistic.
natural born Tech fan kind of makes me the opposite of high on it because I'm obviously like it's been like beaten into me over the years of like, man, when you get too high is when they kind of bring you back down to earth. So, first thing I texted my buddies after the game was like, "This is great, but now I'm already worried about the next one because the team's got to come back. You know, today I guess I think they got back this afternoon sometime,
Yeah, they got back a few hours ago.
and then get back on the body clock on Eastern time, and then get back to work on Monday and get ready for a game on Saturday at home. And I'm sure, like you said, it's Georgia State. Like it's their biggest game, in
This
a while.
biggest game on their schedule probably, and aside from maybe playing for a conference title, their biggest game they'll have all year. If
Yeah,
they can get that, I have no idea where they fit in any of that, but like, just if you're looking at it, this is their Super Bowl. Like, this is their big moment, and you got to slap those teams down. And we've seen Georgia Southern and other teams kind of come in and give Georgia Tech a run. Obviously, they struggled against Bowling Green last year. The Northern Illinois game, Citadel with Jeff. Like, there's been a series of these games where you can't catch a breath, and so I think this is the key thing Brett Key talked about, right? You learn how not to lose, then you learn how to win, and now it's that next step of winning what you're supposed to win, and then kicking it up to where you're in every game, and that'll be the true sign that the culture switched over, and they're out of this funk where even Paul, they had some turd games with Paul. I mean, they should have lost to Georgia Southern, and was it 2014? Um,
I
that
know
they the
the
flute
Middle
play,
Tennessee.
to get the ball back and all that.
Yeah,
Um,
there was
there've
the
been a lot of
Middle Tennessee
these.
State game. That was during Paul, right? Middle Tennessee State.
Well,
Paul.
that was a weird game. They stole the signals from
Oh,
the defensive coordinator. He used the same signals for three straight games. They played them three times in a row, and I think that was it the middle game or the third game? I don't remember. Anyways, they stole the signals. That's what happened in that game. It's kind of a well-known, um, funny story. And then they beat the brakes off them the other two times they played them. But yeah,
they
I mean, you got to win these games. Like, this is this is how you protect yourself from going to the Gasparilla Bowl or the Military Bowl or whatever. Winning the winnable games on your schedule, and then knocking off some other big games. And they still, you still got Notre Dame and Georgia, and then the whole ACC sled, which they play seven of the top eight preseason teams in the league. So like, this it's a top 10 hard schedule, and it is for a reason. They've got the first dub on there. Now it's time to get some more.
have they I'm sure we'll dig into it more this week, but have they named their starter yet at quarterback? Have you? I mean, I know we've been
I know. I
focused
was
on
just having this
State.
discussion with somebody offline. I'm not sure. I obviously
I
haven't
didn't
been
know if
paying attention.
our old buddy
I don't know
Zach
if it's
Gibson
Zach
going to
Gibson
be.
or not, which would be pretty interesting for everyone
Yeah,
involved.
yeah, the homecoming.
And then they have Kenyatta Watson, who miraculously made the Senior Bowl watch list despite not playing a meaningful defensive back snap a year ago, and a not great secondary, which interesting. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
There's a. I'm gonna get. I'm probably gonna get together that later this week. But like, there's several Tech Georgia State connections, coaching staff wise, and players, and
Roderick
there's a
Chungong's on that staff,
yeah, and
as
there's
is Taquan Marshall.
right. That was one I couldn't. And then Jim Chaney's the offense coordinator that was here for a cup of
Oh,
tea.
Jeff's guy he brought in to be his analyst or whatever that showed up like a couple times a week, Jim Chaney. It was very funny to see him like materialize that season.
Yeah,
The old Tennessee staff, they had like so many dudes, Chip Long and Jim Chaney, and Winky was from that, the Jeremy Pruitt connection.
McDonald's bag, Jeremy Pruitt. All right, the next one it just
Hey, be
says,
careful, that's Brent's friend.
"Hey, there's nothing wrong with paying some players that do it legally now." So
Oh, what he did is now legal, so it's kind of funny.
that's right. Next question is kind of one just for you because I was back home, but it says that this person said they noticed 3 or 4 people in the press area wearing Florida State team gear, and it says they definitely weren't SID communication staff. Is that no longer looked down on?
No, it's still looked down on. You shouldn't do it. And credit to Mike Flynn, the Georgia Tech SID. He like screamed at some dude that like cheered when Florida State scored in that press area. He like jumped up and like got in the dude's face, which I always appreciate. Mike's very, that's like one of his pet peeves. If you like do that, he like flipped out on this dude, which was warranted because as a working press area, you're not supposed to do that. Like, I mean, we all just sat there. I was just like, it was very funny because on the game-winning field goal, I forgot to pull my phone out. Like, you normally I would videotape that from like the crowd, and like I don't know what was going on. Maybe it was like just being in Ireland and all that. I just forgot to do it, and I was sitting there and like I had like no reaction whatsoever. I just took one and then just kind of sat there for a second thinking about it. And I was like, oh, I should videotape the celebration or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of people that are fans. The most notorious is the Clemson beat. That's my favorite story I like to tell about that is covering a men's basketball game there when Brian Gregory was a coach, maybe, or maybe Josh. We go to the presser, and this one of their cheerleaders was working for some website and showed up at the press conference to interview Brad Burnell in her cheerleading outfit still. And I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is certainly not the working press box that I'm used to. Like, this is like some Wild West stuff. They have a lot of wheeze and all that stuff. And I have a lot of friends that cover Florida State. There's some that have like corporate gear that looks like team stuff. I never got into doing that. Like you won't see me put myself or Alex in like gold rival shirts or whatever that like have patches and like I'm not going to do that in press box. I already told Alex what not to wear in the press box. Like I'm very particular about. And it's fine, man. I was like happy, down on the field after the game. Gave some hugs to some people and stuff. But just more of me being happy for them because I know how hard all these dudes have worked. Right? It's more about that than like I'm not. I'm excited they won the game on like a certain level, but on the other level, I'm happy for these people that I know really well personally, like Brent Key or Jeep Wade or Buster or whatever. All those dudes came up to me on the field after the game, and it's like, hey man, I am so happy for you because I know how hard you guys are. Jeep Wade sleeps in his freaking office. Like he literally has a blow up mattress behind his desk. Like it sits there behind his desk. Like I've seen it with my own eyes. Like that's how hard these dudes work. So, and they're good people and, they're friends in many cases. And so yeah, I was excited for them. And I'm excited for myself on some level because it makes my life not miserable for the next 7 days. And then it was very funny. I'll tell a quick anecdotal story here. Uh, when the game ended and I got down on the field and all that, I had a ton of text messages from people. One of them was from my wife, which was just like an expletive, and then wow, they won the game. And then the other one was an email from my 78-year-old mother who was watching the game, who has no skin in this at all. She like doesn't care about college football at all. She's like, "Wow, that was a great game." So it was very funny to see like how deep it went. I had a bunch of messages from like ex Paul Johnson staffers and all kinds of stuff. Like not people you guys necessarily know, but everyone was just very excited. It was cool to see that like level of excitement. I haven't seen that since probably the Orange Bowl in 2014, to be honest. Like the just people being excited about where the program's at.
I'm sure you didn't get any messages from me. I was incredibly professional after the win.
We're all just kind of stunned. Chad Bishop from the AJC was sitting in front of me, and Ken Segura was sitting in the front to the right. And then my FSU buddies who cover them, I know actually all three of the pay sites. I've worked with literally all three of the people that cover them for um, over the years, and we had a pretty funny discussion at right before the half when they started that 2 minute drive and they had a timeout. The first TV timeout, I went up and talked to my uh, friend Christine who works for 24/7. Was just like, Well, clearly they don't trust DJU to win this game with this 2 minute offense they're running, with getting the ball back 3.5 minutes. You're running the football like you're trying to run out the clock to go to halftime. So that told me everything I needed to know. And that from that point forward, I was pretty confident that Georgia Tech was going to win the game. To be honest with you, like when I saw them kind of lay up, even after a dude hit the field goal, I was like, man, they have no juice in this game, and unless Georgia Tech screws it up, like I think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I think my confidence was rose a little bit when the breaks, like I talked about in the like I
Oh,
wrote
like
yesterday.
when Haynes knocked the fumble away, and
Yeah, and
well, you know what, man, the one moment of doubt I had in the whole thing watching it was when the botched jet sweep or whatever that was. And I was like, oh crap, they're gonna have to throw the football to get back in field goal range, like to make it comfortable. Because that was as Brent said in his post game press conference, that was kicking into the wind. That was the wind that let the dude hit the 59-yarder. You're kicking into that wind from there because that was going into the open end of the stadium. So they had, I forget what he said the line marker was, might have been the 35. No, it was maybe further in than that. And that they had a marker for both sides, and like he knew they had to get to at least that far to kick it. So that'll be
yeah,
interesting.
that Singleton screen, like that was an incredible play by him, and I mean without yeah, that field goal would have
It's a
been.
tough kick, man. It would have been a lot of pressure on Burr, and then you get into the danger of getting blocked and all those kind of. Because there was a dude that like he jumped high as hell on that like block attempt. There was some dude that like was like up in the air, like way up. Because I saw it live, I was like, holy cow, that dude's really up there. I don't know who it was, but um, yeah, obviously didn't kick it that way.
Yeah,
I'll take a couple from the chat here real quick. Someone asked about preseason 7-5, blah blah blah. I've said 8-4. I'll stick with 8-4 for now. We'll see if they go above that. That was obviously regular season 9, whatever. Alex got to plug his thing in.
a horrible battery, horrible. I got to get something done about
What
this.
players surprised me? Chad Alexander actually didn't. I wasn't sure which if it would be him or Anthony Carey. Um, I knew it would be one of those two guys. I was pretty confident that it wasn't going to be Trey Cooley, and they've been real up on Chad Alexander. The second scrimmage is when he really established himself and kind of moved ahead of Dickens in the short term, and was neck and neck with Carey there. And I'm sure we'll see Anthony Carey too at some point. I mean, they only played 65 snaps or something. There wasn't a lot to go around with the way the game was rolling and the way the drives were going. It wasn't a situation where you needed more than two backs, but Chad was good. Who surprised me? Tajay Butler played well. Um, I thought you could see what Romello Height does. He screwed that one sack up where he just kind of panicked and let his hand get too high on DJU, trying to because he thought he was going to lose him. It should have been a sack, and he just let his hand get up on his face mask. But that was more of a frustration for for. There's a funny comment I'll show you in a second, Alex. Uh, there's a so yeah, it was interesting to see those guys on offense. I thought Big Red lived up to his hype. I liked Avery Boyd at tight end. I thought he looked more comfortable there at that H-back spot. Getting that really suits him well. Not having to do too much in terms of the passing game, making reads and stuff, and the blocking's very straightforward at that position.
I think
Um,
think I think Boyd's going to be a weapon. I mean, just that one play he caught that short pass and made some. I think he's going to be if
you got 15 on that one, yeah.
that was. I think he's going to be a big weapon for the offense this year. And people's been asking about Halls on here too. Like I think he had a really good game. He didn't. I don't think he had a reception. I can pull up the box score, but he was he was right in there with the offensive line, laying some laying some good blocks. Uh, moving the pile. So
Obligatory attendance question. No idea. I imagine it'll be a really good crowd. Night game, Bobby Dodd. You got the commuter school Georgia State fans, and then so that they sell what 10,000 a game or something. So they'll probably have that in the stadium. I would hope for their sake, for their season opener, they'd fill out their visitor allotment. I haven't asked about the ticket sales for the game, but I hope it's a good crowd. I don't get into that, man, like trying to project that. I think it's very difficult to do. Like, I'm not expecting it to suddenly be 55, 52, 5 or whatever the cap is now after they took the seats out. But
I think it's down to 51,000. I saw
is it
maybe.
now? Yeah, there's a whole discussion about this in the summer, and I don't remember what it landed on the final. No, I haven't actually. That's not. That's, I'm sure it's in the media guide or something. I probably should look it up.
Yeah, I don't think after one game, I mean, as much as they would want it to, I don't think it's going to be a sellout like a primetime ranked opponent night game in Atlanta.
No, this game and the VMI game are tough. Like they're just not. It's not sexy, I guess would be the way to put it. And nowadays, people are looking for the sexy games. This is the comment that made me laugh, Alex.
Yeah, we do. Same
Guys with
guy.
glasses and beards.
I'm hanging on to the hair. I'm gonna have to go
Yeah,
get
brother.
off.
Yeah, it's probably about time to give up the ghost there.
I can only wear hats so long, so yeah, I gotta shave all that off. Um,
Here's a
you want,
question about Chad Alexander. I think Chad will end up on scholarship. Well, definitely now that the cap's rising. That's been something that's been um, kind of in the works, I think, for a little while. That he was working his way towards that. If y'all don't remember, he was a really good special teams player for Georgia Tech a year ago. He was a guy I talked about a lot in a lot of games, like punt return, punt coverage, and some of the other special teams units. He was a real asset for them. He was one of the gunners, I think, a year ago for them, and just been a dude they've been really excited about. And he has progressed under Norv McKenzie and into a situation where he's contributing in a room where there's some talented guys. Um,
you want me next?
yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. Well, the one thing we kind of already talked about it. Just said what made you both so confident Tech would win, as both you all predicted they would. Well, I wasn't that confident, and I kind of
No,
talked
you weren't until you saw
about
mine.
on
So truth be told, Alex was going to pick it the other way.
that.
And then I sent him my prediction because he was finishing up his story. I said, "Why don't you just throw mine in there with yours?" So I think that makes sense. And then he was like,
He's like me.
"Oh," so
Yeah. And I was gonna pick Florida State. I think 27-21, the same exact score that Petty told me on Friday. But um,
stupid swinging gate got me, man. Like that
that's
first
that
touchdown. It's annoying.
that
I would have had the perfect score and it picked.
I don't want to get off on a tangent here because I know we got more questions to go. But uh, and this is kind of a niche thing, but ESPN broadcast, and you I don't know if you taped it or not, but you need to go back and watch it. They didn't even show that play, Kelly. They
No,
were in
they
the middle of,
didn't.
well, they were in the middle of a replay or something, like piddling around with a touchdown, and then we come back and Florida State scoring a 2-point conversion, and we don't know what happened. Like, stuff like that
Yeah,
just
they
gets
just
me
were not
nerve.
lined up properly against it. They just caught him napping. And they were expecting them to just line up for PAT, and they assumed they lined up wide, and then they just snapped the ball real fast and caught
But
Georgia Tech off guard asleep.
they finally showed the replay, and like they sent the guy in motion. There, I think two guys went with him, and there was a mismatch. And so, yeah, I've seen that in high school before. But yeah, that stuff just like that. There was that thing, and then there was a whole package that they did about the broadcast crew going to play golf like that week, and they just it like lasted into the next two or three plays, and it's just like, man, sometimes I just like, just show the game. Let's talk about the game. I know y'all ESPN wants to do all this fancy stuff outside the game, but it's just so frustrating. Like, I just want to watch the football game, and I don't know. That got under my skin yesterday, but I don't know. That might just be me. But um,
Here's another question from the chat. Who didn't play? I thought Horst was going to play. They ended up, I think, holding him back. Um, Leo played. He just didn't play a ton. He was in on Zach Pyron's touchdown. That was an interesting play because that was something Buster had they had wanted him to score a couple times last year, and I think it just didn't happen. And then so I think that was a little bit of a like, thanks for sticking with us kind of play, like, you know, and they got that on tape now. People got prepared for that, like the heavy package with him. They had actually some pretty heavy stuff that they're probably getting away from without Brett Seither now too. They had like 14 personnel sets and stuff. So Brett talked about this a little bit one day after practice, that they had some real heavy stuff because they added. I think it was the tight ends day they were talking about it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works. But Leo, I thought maybe he'd play a little more, but that wasn't really his kind of game. I mean, I guess he could have blocked on the outside. Lockett, like I said, I thought EJ Lightsey would play more than he did. He only played about 7 snaps on defense, but that was because Eford was playing so well. So EJ's backing up Eford basically, and Tajay and Trent are on the weak side, and then Jackson Hamilton's sort of their floater. So that's how that goes.
That kind of led into the next question on the board too. It asked about can you post the participation chart, which I can do that here shortly because I got the box score sitting right here.
Yeah, so it was a little goofy after the game. I don't know if they've updated. I'll have to ask Anthony, the SID, if he's the stat whoever. So stat broadcast was like broken. The thing that we use to track the game, like on our end, it was like insanely broken. We were having to actually watch the ESPN Gamecast, which is terrible for trying to track like who made a tackle or whatever, and it's very behind. If you've ever followed, I'm sure people have followed games on there that were maybe blacked out or something. It's difficult to follow it that way, and it took a full quarter. And if you guys go look at the halftime stats, they're still the funniest thing is it's like a weird error. I don't think I have a way to show. I could present it on here. It'd be a pain. Anyways, if you look at my screenshot, I didn't realize this until later on. They have the logos inversed. Like Georgia Tech has Florida State's logo, and Florida State has Georgia Tech's logo on and it's on the stats. I didn't notice it, and I had to refresh my stat broadcast to get rid of it. Chad pointed it out to me when we were talking about it. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
the person was asking about not seeing Blackburn, which we talked about that. He was in
He did play. Yeah, he definitely
and then,
played.
and then Anthony Carey. I don't know. I have to look back. I don't think he played.
I
Like,
don't. I don't. He didn't play an offensive snap. I don't think.
yeah. Um,
Oh, here I'll do this one. Um, the only guy I saw leave the game was Trey Cooley, and he didn't come back. He was in sweats. He came back out like and was in his like in those actually very cool looking white Adidas tracksuits. He was in that in the post game celebration. He was out on the field in that. I don't know if he got knocked out or what. But he was down for a while. It was on the first kick. It was on the opening kickoff. Well, I mean the first Florida State kickoff after he scored a touchdown. I think Larry took the kick out, and then I looked up and he was just kind of laying at like the 10. I'm not sure what happened to him. I don't know if he got rolled up or what, but he was not. He was in street clothes. He was in the tent for a while, and then they took him to the locker room, and then he didn't come back out in his uniform. I don't think. But that was the only thing that I saw. Corey Robinson and Jordan Brown were splitting at left tackle. Corey was doing a lot more of the pass stuff when they were going to throw the ball. Jordan Brown was when they're doing some of the more mauling runs. Go ahead, Alex.
Let me find my place again. I was trying to reply on one of the answers, and I got sent to the bottom of the page. Let's see here. Well,
I can answer this real quick while you do that. What will be harder, the Syracuse or Louisville game? I have no idea. We don't know anything about any of those teams. Louisville's supposed to be good on paper. They were good last year. Jeff Brom's a very good coach. We have no idea whatsoever about Syracuse's head coach. And he's a first-time head coach. Um, with an all-new team, they hit the portal hard. So I don't know. And up in the Carrier Dome, who knows? I think Louisville will be a hard game. I can tell you that. I think every ACC game is going to be hard. So we'll see what Syracuse looks like. But I have no idea. We'll start to see them all on Saturday.
Gotcha. And this question was asking about Brent Key's record at home, but then the guy went and answered it lower in the post.
Okay. Here's another one about the FSU social media, which is something else. The smaller podcasts and many fans are saying their daily media group lied to fans about FSU's issues. I think so. It's interesting. Patrick Burnham, who works at Osceola, which is now the Rivals site that replaced War Chant. Pat, who's the son of a coach and his coach and all that stuff, he and I had pretty much agreed on the game. We did a preview, which was very different than what a lot of our other people I know who cover them thought. I think, from talking to some of my buddies who cover them, two of whom have been accused of being homerish in their coverage, they thought that Florida State would be much better on the lines of scrimmage than they were. And they were taken aback at how Georgia Tech just blew them off the line, how Georgia Tech's offensive line blew their defensive line off the line of scrimmage. And that was all we heard about, right? That was all the media was talking about, how great this Florida State defensive line was. It was the whole storyline going into the game of why Florida State was going to win. And then they had the linebacker who was the washout from Auburn, and some guys who were a little bit of wash. They had 5 former Bama guys that all left after Saban got fired, and they were all, Raydell Williams played okay. Benson was fine, but none of them really flashed that much to me. Yeah, and Georgia Tech they negated the thing that made them so good, which was the read option stuff with Haynes, because he was so much faster than their defensive lineman. So he was able to just outrun them to the edge and get yards. There were 4 or 5 times where they had Haynes dead to rights. He was able to get out and get positive yardage by just literally outrunning them to the side and curling around the edge. He just literally ran away from them. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
The fumble on the last drive, he didn't gain yards, but it could have been worse than it was, and
he picked it up and he got it back 5 yards back or something like that.
Yeah. This question says, do you think we'll be ranked heading into Syracuse? I mean, if they beat Georgia State,
2-0. It depends too, what happens. If FSU looks like crap again, and it's Boston College. I don't know who else plays. You have certainly the Georgia Clemson loser will stay ranked. I don't know what other games are this weekend.
Notre Dame, LSU. I mean, Notre Dame. No. LSU and Texas A&M. Notre Dame plays Texas A&M. Let me get it straight. Then
Hold on, I'm pulling it up now.
LSU and USC play. I know. I think that's a neutral site.
So the most dangerous games are Miami, Florida. Miami's 19. So these are the teams that could fall out. I just don't. Florida's such a mess. I have a hard time imagining them upsetting them. A&M could fall out if they lose to Notre Dame. They're at 20. USC, LSU, if LSU wins, that would probably push USC out. They're 23 right now. So those are the ones to look at. And obviously, if Florida State loses again, they're definitely out. I'll be interested to see what they do with them. They need to actually go beat BC pretty soundly to stay in the poll, I think, because everyone's so annoyed with them that they might just throw them out.
That was a bad loss for ESPN too, because now ESPN's got to hype up a Labor Day Monday night game between Florida State and Boston College. So,
at least it's not in Boston. The ACC may hate Florida State now, but they didn't do that to them. So I thought that would have been pretty funny if they came back and then had to go to Boston. But because their fans should just if that was the case, just fly back to Boston, stay in Boston for a couple days, and then go to the game. But no, it's in Tally. It was funny seeing all the upset Florida State fans, and dude, there were so many. I had to be at the airport at uh, I was in the airport at like 7 a.m. this morning in Dublin, and I was flying from Dublin to Frankfurt and then to Toronto, and standing in security, man, seeing these just like it reminded me of like the day after Mardi Gras if you went to the airport, like just seeing how hammered these Florida State fans were. I was like, oh my god, they're all wearing shades in the airport, like just trashed. And all they have is their Florida State gear because that's all they brought with them, thinking they were going to win. So they can't even like pretend to not be a Florida State fan. Um, so it was very funny to see all that. That's one of those weird things when you have like these weird neutral site games that you run into. If it's like a true travel game like this was, there's not a ton of these. Usually they're in Atlanta or Dallas or something. This was like a true travel, like you got to get on an airplane and really be committed. I will give Florida State credit, man. They showed up a lot harder than I thought they would. They had really good crowd energy. It felt like they had a little bit of an edge in the stadium, just loudness and stuff. But I was on the tech side, so it's hard for me to hear what it sounded like the other way.
Yeah. I had a buddy working he works for like a ticket like a experience company. I don't even know what it is, but he said it was like 80 to 85% Florida State. I don't think it was
No, 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 no.
that crazy,
Because
but
I was down on the field before the game, and like I could tell you, it was not that bad. It reminded me of like the ACC championship games or something against them, where it might have been like 60-40 or something,
I know
65 worse.
there was a famous Atlanta radio guy that's a Florida State fan that went to the game and he had a
Oh,
sad
Mike Bell.
sad video walking back from the game and he gave Georgia Tech credit, I'll say that. So but yeah, he was there.
Mike's a character. I know Mike a little bit through, mostly through Twitter, actually. I don't think we've talked much in person. Here's a good one from the Nick Saban calling Georgia Tech a sleeper. Yeah, no kidding. I've been saying this for a while. Like, I think they have a lot of potential. As I said, if they're in the top 70 in defense at the end of the year and the offense stays at a similar clip, it just we'll take offensive efficiency at this point, not even necessarily total offense or whatever, just like OEI or whatever they call it. If it's at a similar clip, which I think was in the top 40 last year, and the defense is top 70, yeah, you're playing for Charlotte probably. So I don't. I think Nick Saban knows football. He likes what Brent's doing. Um, Brent's one of his proteges, even though Brent's much more of an O'Leary guy. He learned so much about coaching from Nick Saban. Even like Miss Terry, Nick Saban's wife, influenced Danielle Brent's wife on like all the things that she does. Like they followed and learned, man. Like Brent was soaking all that stuff up when he was with Nick Saban, like a sponge. And so he has implemented the things that he thought made the most sense into his program, along with a lot of other stuff. And before they went and played there, he talked to Saban, he talked to Bill Belichick about what it's like to play these overseas games. Belichick gave him some advice on what to do there and like how to handle it, which was you treat it like it's just another game. Like you go in and it's business and it's not making it special like a bowl game or something. You make it into a business trip. And that was the approach they took, and you saw it. They were not, out dancing on the sidewalks of, you know, um,
They were afterward.
what was that place called? What's it? Temple Bar area. Like they weren't out down there. Like, sorry, I'm tired. I've been up for a really long time now. Um,
I mean, you said like I think it's simple as that with Saban. Like he sees one of his former assistants doing, building the program like he would build it, like through the, lines of scrimmage, and he sees them coming along that way, and I think that's kind of what gives Saban the thought that Georgia Tech's going to be improved, and like you win the game at line of scrimmage. So it's pretty simple sometimes. So um, there's some of these questions we've already talked about. Here's one that says there was a guy said he saw a comment that most of Brent Key's staff are former linemen, offense and defense. Is that accurate? And if so, unusual. I
It's
don't.
nine of the 50 or something like that people on staff.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's a lot. There, it's a Brent. They tweeted it out. It's like a graphic that Brent had them make up um, about. It's funny. I just got a Twitter suggestion about my tweet about all the sad FSU fans at the Double Airport this morning. That's pretty funny. Well, we're literally talking about this. Yeah, no, there's definitely a push to have a lot of. I mean, former offensive linemen. I mean, they have three guys who literally touch the players every day in terms of coaching, and Jeep Wade, Alan Mogridge, and Brent Key. And you have AP, you have Kyle Pope, you have all these different guys that have that type of experience on the staff. Anthony Parker, uh, the Boyle twins. There's just a
Aaron
ton of
Joe,
them. What?
Aaron Joe.
Yep, Ejo, my boy. Yeah, man. It's funny. He was on a. They had a group call before the game. They have it's like a tradition they do, and every time before Tech plays, and it's like Shaq Mason and him and two other guys, and it was kind of cool to see that they still do that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen this. I don't know if you have. That ESPN's make it seem like FSU lost the game. I thought it was quite the opposite. Um, those they were being pretty crediting to Georgia Tech. But again, I don't watch like I literally don't watch ESPN unless it's a live game. I'm not interested in hearing two guys shout at each other about BS. Like I'm watching some political talk show. Like I'm good there. I don't need fake anger and hot takes. So I don't watch any of those like debate shows. So I don't know if that's something that's been going on, but
I don't. I mean, yeah, I mean, they talked about Florida State obviously a lot. They're going to talk about the team that was ranked that lost the game, but I think when they're actually talking about what happened in the game, there's a lot of talk about Georgia Tech kind of. I mean, they were the better team. They imposed their will and they won the game. They were the one that deserved to win. I heard a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, they talked a lot about Florida State. They were already talking about how they could make it their way back into the playoffs, which is true. I mean, it's a 12-game playoff now,
no,
so
yeah, it's better to lose early than it is late, and you can make up ground later on if they figure things out. That's why I thought this game also favored Georgia Tech so much because they may figure out what they want to do with DJU down the line. Like that might be the thing um, that they figure out as this goes along. But right now they haven't. So you know, swing passes and screens to running backs are not going to win games.
that's what the next question is: how do we improve on turnovers? Is that even possible? And I think, I mean,
You need the ball thrown vertically and
right, that there was
collapse the pocket.
I don't know what it ended up as, but they showed a stat at one point in the game. Maybe it's like his first 12 completions was negative point 0.1 air yards per, like, because he didn't throw anything down the field
He
until
was
that.
5 of 6 in the middle of the field. Those were all those fourth down plays where the three, I think, fourth downs they converted, and then two other third downs maybe. Those were plays where Georgia Tech was trying to contain the QB run, and they were in a soft zone. And eventually, you can sit down in the zone. That's what the receivers did each of those times. And then the one slant they threw, where the guy just beat Zach, I think it was, on the slant, got to the inside of him. That was like the one really nice pass they had in the game, I thought. Um, and then the other one that got overturned by Douglas on the sideline. Uh, but yeah, I mean, teams are going to hit plays on you, but you're not going to get turnovers. Their whole intention was to not turn the ball over. Both teams, I think, had that kind of approach to the game. It was a ball control game. They were trying to limit possessions and win the game that way. Um,
And even in the running game, there was like a lot of fumbles are forced in the open space. And after that first drive, like there wasn't any runs. Georgia State was making tackles inside the box. Like, you're not going to get a whole lot of fumbles there unless it's, I don't know,
No, they
like,
were getting 2 yard, 3 yard, -1, stuff like that. 5 yards sometimes. Like that was all they were getting. They weren't gashing them at all. Here we go. Uh, yeah, I mean, we've seen that Haynes. So this is a question about Haynes King being able to punch guys down the field. Yeah, I think so. I mean, they tried to force the ball a little bit to Singleton in the game. That was kind of hit and miss. He overthrew him on the one deep ball. It should have been a touchdown. Just like overthrew him by a hair, and then also Singleton got a little turned around looking for the football, which didn't help. Probably made it look a little worse. It may have been more on the money than that. I don't know. I'd have to see a replay of it, but live, it looked like they were just not in sync on it. There's no point in doing that in that game. They were giving you the QB run, and you were getting to the edge with it because Haynes is so quick. If you're able to do that, then you don't need to worry about throwing the ball down the field. Like, don't overcomplicate things. If you're able to gash them running the football, then gash them running the football. That was the thing they got away from last year at times. They get too cute. And there was one possession in the third quarter where I think they did that. They got behind the sticks on first down and threw the ball 2 times and like had to punt. They had it was the first 3 and out of the game. I think it was in the third quarter. And you should just run the ball.
yeah, the first two series of the second half were
Not great.
they had the long run by Haynes, but then they punted it after that, and then this next series was a 3-and-out. So yeah,
Here's a I commented on the board about this pretty extensively. My feelings are quite known. I'm not a big David Pollock guy. I thought he was kind of an ass when I was in school. I was in school with him at the time. He was a guy that had been this very kind of like uh, very polite young man or whatever, and then turned into the star football player, and his ego got out of control. And then he had the neck injury and all that. Luckily, he's come back from all that. But I've just never been impressed with him as an analyst or whatever. Um, and I thought it was a little bit of a shot when he tweeted about Buster being the OC at Georgia. It's hard to not be offended by that if you were literally remotely related to Georgia Tech. And to be honest with you, I think that the next job Buster Faulkner takes is going to be as a head coach somewhere.
I agree. There's a question on here about did Burr get some NIL money to stay at Georgia Tech?
Did who?
Burr, kicker.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a good kicker. He was. Those guys are all getting. Everyone gets a little taste of something. There's a hierarchy, as I understand it, the collective with how they do all that stuff. But everybody's getting taken care of. There are teams coming after Aiden Burr in the portal. He's talked about it. So someone asked about injuries. I just talked about that a minute ago.
There's a question about Efford having only one solo tackle. How do you think the overall performance of the linebackers were yesterday?
I thought Trent really struggled in the first couple of drives, and then he kind of settled down. Eford played well. I mean, I think Santucci's done a nice job of figuring out what he is and understanding his limitations and skill and the things he does well. And I think a smart coach adapts their defense to that. And you're seeing that a little bit with him. He's a Mike box linebacker. It's funny, one of the few plays where they got gashed was on a play where he had to drop into coverage and he was hedging, not sure how far to go back on DJU. That's how they were able to fit the ball on a window to get one of the four. I think it was one of the fourth down conversions they got. He was probably should have dropped a little bit more, but he was nervous about the QB run and he was kind of moving back and forth a little bit. I think you're supposed to just drop or move up. Like he kind of was in no man's land, and he found DJU found the window over his head to forget who it was he threw the ball to, but it was one of their big conversions.
Yeah, that was that was one of the, I think it was the third or fourth down conversion, and it was kind of near midfield, right past midfield, and they rushed three and dropped eight, and they just found a spot. Yeah, Eford kind of missed his zone, I think, but yeah, like you said, that was one play where he probably didn't make the right play, but he had a he. I mean, he's a really good
No,
player.
he played a great. I mean, that's nitpicking, right? Like, crapping on a linebacker for his zone drop on a fourth down play is not. You're getting into the weeds a little bit there. He was in on a lot of big plays, and he was very disruptive. And some of the things he didn't show up on the stat sheet either. Like he was in on some plays or maybe he got initial contact on somebody, or his movement freed up. There's a play I know where like him and CP Lee had like a shared TFL, just things like that, like little things that you want to see. It was encouraging to see. I'd like to see Trent in there a little bit more, and Tajay I'm really excited about. I'm sure they're trying to keep him on a little bit of a pitch count with his body being a young guy. Like you don't want to wear him out. Um, so I'm curious how he evolves as the season goes along.
Well, there's a question on here that shows that this person didn't read my what I wrote yesterday because it says we need a shout out for the offensive lineman who jumped on the fumble in the ton of FSU defenders. That was Keelan Rutledge, and I named that the unsung hero play of the game in my in my post game thoughts. Like, yeah, if he don't get on that fumble and Florida State takes over right there.
No, he literally just willed the ball into his hand.
Yeah,
Haynes did a good job of flicking the ball. He said he was trying to actually recover it. It wasn't. Everyone thought he made this like genius play. He was like, no, no, no. I was trying to get the ball and I just basically fat fingered it and it moved away. And then Keelan was able to jump on it. But he grabbed the football and did what they teach them. I watched them do this drill every once in a while in practice. They'll like do a fumble drill where they have to fall on the football. And he did it exactly like they're taught. Like he grabbed the ball and put it underneath his body so no one could pull it out. Oh,
yeah,
Jackson Haas, some love for Jackson Haas here. Blocking machine stood out. Yeah, I thought Jackson played a great game. He showed you what they like. You still haven't seen the passing game aspect of him yet. He is very solid as a receiver and has good hands, and he'll be a red zone target for them this year, especially. But I thought he was great, and we just talked about Kyle quite a bit.
yeah. This is talking to a Clemson fan about them talking about how frustrating it was when DJU was there, and it reminded him a lot of that. But it says, can you elaborate on why we should be a little more hopeful about the 2024 team, especially the play of the defense? I mean, they had an incredible game against
They
a
played
pretty.
really well against. See, here's the thing that people forget: Florida State has a really good offensive line. They had a lot of starts back. Along with Georgia Tech, they had one of the most experienced lines coming into the season in the ACC, especially in that guard box. And I think that they held their own against them, and that was very encouraging to see. And they couldn't run the football in the second half. They couldn't run the football after the first drive, really. Um, they just were ineffective, and Santucci was in Mike Norvell's head in a way that I haven't seen a Georgia Tech defensive coordinator do anyone other than North Carolina the last few years. Uh, they seem to have had that on North Carolina's OCs, but no one else. But yeah, it was encouraging to see, and Florida State's got a lot of talent, man. Like they may not have harnessed it, but they have a lot of talent, and so it took a lot of work to make all that happen.
That's what makes me feel good about. I mean, the rest of the season is because there's not. I mean, Florida State's lines of scrimmage might be a little bit overrated, but I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of teams other than obviously Georgia, maybe Notre Dame, where they're going to face a team that's just supposed to be as good in the trenches as Florida State was, and Georgia Tech showed that they can hold up to that. Now it's a different. Like in the past several years, it's been teams can just if they just wanted to run the ball in Georgia Tech all day, they could do that because it's just the way it was. The defensive line, with the way we were playing defense. But now, I mean, holding up against Florida State's trenches, that encourages me for the rest of the year because there's not going to be a lot of teams that have as good of players as that. Or Florida State's completely overrated, which I don't know, somewhere in between probably.
We'll probably find out. And it is probably in between. This is pretty funny. Well, no, this isn't funny, but this is something I agree with wholeheartedly. Mari Harvey played really well. I was encouraged, and this is something I asked him about in the post game. He got up and got in the backfield and was attacking downhill. And these are the things that can make you into a draftable corner, right? Like he's very good at coverage. He'll get the interceptions and stuff. Seeing the way he played against the run and attacking the screen game from Florida State was huge to me because that's the progression in his game. And he said it's something he's been trying to add into his game and be better. It's something he showed some flashes of in the bowl game a little bit, but like he's a guy that just has exponentially gotten better. From the middle of last year when he started playing a lot all the way through now. It was interesting because I wasn't sure where he was going to fit into all of this. He came over from Auburn as a transfer, weren't really sure what he was, didn't was behind some older guys, and then just kind of thrust himself in and started making plays and then getting more and more playing time.
There's a question on here that says, "Can you give the pass rush a grade for yesterday?" And
I mean, DJU was getting the ball out fast. Other than
right,
those when they were playing the zone, like they're playing some zone and fourth down or whatever to keep him in the box. Um, and then a couple times they blitzed him, and that didn't. Or there was one really funny one where you just see this guy like fly by him, just totally whiffed. He like it was a safety blitz or something. The dude just goes flying by DJU, like nowhere near him, and then out of like the frame of the camera. I wish I could remember who did it. He just it was a bad angle. Like I guess maybe he stepped to the right or something, the quarterback, and just so he was like the angle was right by him. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I mean, he's again, you're now in this age of running quarterbacks and stuff. There were a couple times where he was able to just step up in the pocket. There was a fourth down he converted that way where he just stepped up and ran for like 6 yards, or it was a third down. I forget what it was, but like you've got to contain those dudes. He's a big guy, like he's gonna run downhill, so it's hard. And they had a good offensive line. So I thought I was excited from what I saw from Sylvain and Romello and Kevin Harris. Those are the three guys that kind of had circle going into the game.
yeah, I listened to some of when on the way to Chattanooga today. I was listening to Luganville and the guy's name, Barrett Sallee, and they were
Okay.
talking about they were uh, they were specifically talking about how good Romello was. I mean, even in plays where like he was doing things to you know
He
occupy
was
blocks.
disruptive. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was moving. He was forcing the ball out. There were a couple of errant throws that were just forced by him being like spinning. Like there was one play I remember where he was kind of pushed outside. He spun back in on the tackle to go back around. And when DJU saw him spin back around, he threw the ball away, like, because he didn't want to get hit. Um, whereas Haynes King stepped into the pocket a couple times and threw those balls, which is what you want to see from your quarterback instead of just kind of getting dumping it. Um, I
I
thought
just
I thought Haynes King played a hell of a game, by the way. Like, I don't think he got enough credit from people. Like, he took a couple of big shots, like delivering some balls, especially on the conversion, the one to Malik down the field. Like he got lit up. He got lit up on the one where Malik fell down on the three and out.
he had I don't know if he got hit or maybe they pulled up, but I mean he had a guy literally unblocked on the conversion to Jamal on the final drive, and like he just found him. And I'll say when Jamal cut back there, and I was like, God,
Well,
I
no,
was
so that was a screen, so that was intentional. They wanted that guy to run at him to pull him away from Jamal so he could. I don't know if he
okay,
got hit either. I don't remember. I don't think he did because I think that would have been 15 if they hit him.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
either way, had the guy in his face, hit him right on the, hitting right in stride, and I'm glad Jamal got it back up the field after that cutback because that was a pretty important first down. Um, on that last drive.
Let's pick up the pace here. How many more questions I got?
Yep. Let's see. Was Chad Alexander a non-commodity? You were
Yeah, we
asked.
talked about this earlier. Yes.
Yep. Let's see. It says the offensive identity has been run first under Buster. It seemed like they were afraid to take many deep
Well,
shots. Was he?
no, it's been run first since the second half of last season. That's when they figured out what they were. That's something that
Okay.
Jeep and them have talked about on the record. So that's when they figured out who they were.
And it says, was this due to FSU's pass rush, poor pass blocking block? I mean, that was the game plan. Like we said, they knew what they wanted to do against the Florida State defense, and they
They've had
imposed
the
their.
same game plan against Georgia and some other teams, right? Like, if you feel like you might be in a little bit of a mismatch, say if you think Florida State's defensive line's really good and you're gonna have trouble throwing the ball vertically and taking shots down the field, then you're going to move to shorten the game. And that's what they've done against Georgia and some other teams to a great effect. Run the football, control the clock. And with the new clock rules, it makes it even easier now with the clock running all the time until the 2 minute warning. So you have very little incentive to throw the football if you want to chew the clock. And that frustrates the hell out of all these spread guys that like to run up tempo when you do that. And now with the helmet comm, they can take longer. You can tell Haynes, slow down, slow down, slow down. And the helmet comm, Buster Faulkner, and control the pace of the game a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah, with new clock rules, there's only so many possessions per game now. Like it's a whole lot less than it used to be.
There you
But
go. There's a question.
I
Was
just
Jeff Collins watching the game? Of course, Jeff Collins was watching the game. I'm sure he was doing his tomahawk chop when they scored the first touchdown too, because he grew up a lifelong Florida State fan and had a poster of who would have been playing back then in the '80s. That was before they got good, probably when he was in high school. So I don't know how he pulled that off, but yeah, he had posters of so and so on the wall and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm sure Jeff watched the game. Everyone was watching the game because it's the first college football of the year.
yeah.
Um, Lamiles Brooks Swaggerback, yeah, he did. I thought he looked a lot better. He had one or two plays where he's a little tentative still. He needs to be a little more assertive. He was dancing a little bit with the receiver or with the running back in space. He got dinged, I think, a PFF for that probably, but he looked a lot more like himself. I thought the PI on him was kind of bullshit. He was they were going back and forth. The guy who was staring directly at the play didn't throw the flag. Who was looking dead at them? It was the guy from the back who had the worst angle on it. They probably should have picked that up.
Yeah, the Florida State guy pulled him into him. Like it was clear on the replay that shouldn't have been a flag. Um, Last question I've got on here, it says any insider info on Lockett. Was he recovering or just beat out?
Oh no, no, no. He was. I think they were trying to save him. Um, no, he will be in the rotation. I think this was a game where they got away with not needing to play him. I think if they had been in, and that's the difference, man, between a year ago and now. Like you had, Zeke and Vandenberg and Jason Moore and Micaiah Scott, and you got all these dudes now. You can get away sometimes, especially the way that game was flowing, where so few possessions. You can, if you need a guy, he had that club on his wrist or whatever. Like if you want to give him a couple days or give him a game off, you can do that now. Whereas before, they would have been so thin, they would have been, not they would have had 3D tackles to rotate. Now they've got five, even without one of their guys who's essentially a starter. From the chat, what team's biggest schematically? Notre Dame will be interesting if they're still. I don't know what they look like on offense right now. I haven't looked at them yet. I think NC State will be good, and Louisville will be good, but they're not like fundamental mismatches. Um, I'm curious about Notre Dame. I don't know what to make of them. Um, and I'm not a big Dave Doran guy, so I'm not gonna think about that. Someone asked if Tech should be rated against Florida State. Yeah, You beat Florida State, you should be ranked ahead of them. I think that's how this works. At least in my mind, is if I were, I don't vote for the AP Top 25, but if I did, that would be my take on it. I think your former boss actually has the vote for this area, or your former colleague. Um,
Marietta Daily.
yeah, I think John
Oh
Bednowski
yeah,
does
Bedlam,
the.
right? Yeah,
I don't know why, because I haven't seen him at a game in like 10 years, but I think he has a vote.
yeah. I don't
My
think they have
former coworker
credentials.
as well, I should say.
Yeah, I don't think they have credentials for Georgia or Georgia Tech. We've got a guy that's kind of got those now that shoots photos for Georgia. But, but yeah, well, I guess
This is funny. I talked about Ben. I like Ben. He seems like a nice guy. He really likes Georgia State. He is comes across as very much a little bit of a troll, especially when it comes to Georgia Tech for some reason. He was definitely chirping after the game, which I thought was an interesting tactic for a team where you have literally zero idea what you have right now because your coach quit in the middle of spring football. So if I were him, I would be like laying low and not trying to like provoke people. But maybe that's he's getting clicks or traffic offers. Or maybe is he got a blue check mark and he's monetized his Twitter? Maybe I don't know. Um, Ben seems like a nice enough guy. I've had one or two conversations with him. I think like maybe DMs or something. I don't know if I've ever met him, but people are gonna act like. I mean, like I said, it's their Super Bowl, man. Like they gotta try to get up for it. This is a question for you, Alex. We'll end on this one. Is the line out? Have you looked at the line yet for the Georgia State game?
I hadn't yet. I hadn't. Yeah, I was on the road all day today. I didn't look yet, but I mean, it would make sense after a win over number 10 in the country to for it to move that well. But let's see.
Oh, these are just top. Uh,
I mean, 22 and a half still a ton of points. So
oh,
like
is
18.
North Carolina playing Thursday night?
Yeah, they play at Minnesota Thursday. I
I'm
think
gonna
they're up.
be really. I'm sure all the Georgia Tech fans will be watching. I'm very curious to see what Jeff's defense looks
I,
like as
I
back with
think
as a DC.
I think Carolina's a road. I think they're a road dog against Minnesota. I believe. I looked at that.
Minnesota's not been good lately either. So I don't remember which one's the like good. I don't ever gamble on college football because I overanalyze it and then I talk myself into crazy parlay bets. One of my USF subscribers won a ton of money on a parlay with Georgia Tech. Parlayed the over under and Georgia Tech to cover.
Yeah, I had a
He took
Georgia
the
fan.
under because it was 55 or something like that, and then he got Tech at 11 and a half.
I had a Georgia fan that's used to coach one of the teams that I covered at high school, and he texted me and said, "Man, I need Georgia to. I mean, I need Tech to make this field goal and not go to overtime because I have the under parlayed with Georgia Tech money line or Georgia Tech with a spread or something like that. I can't remember, but
Oh, I
uh,
remember the third part of this guy's parlay was, which I thought was crazy. He bet Nevada would cover in the SMU game, which they did. Um, that was, I guess, a close game. I was asleep when that one was on. Minus 22 on DraftKings,
yeah, that's what I was getting to. I
and
think.
the over under is 57. So that's interesting.
Oh, this.
I would actually play the over there, and
Yeah,
maybe
I
not
think
the 22.
Carolina. Carolina's actually a 1 point favorite at Minnesota on Thursday.
That makes
Uh,
sense. People will bet on Carolina because they like Carolina. Um,
yeah, I see on ESPN. I see 21 and a half for Georgia Tech, Georgia State, and then over the total's
Man, you got
57
to
and a half.
be a degenerate to bet on Rutgers, Howard, or like
Yeah, Thursday night.
UCF, New Hampshire, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
I saw people were asking about streams for the Hawaii game last night because it wasn't on TV, and like people were trying to get the illegal streams on Twitter because they had bets on Hawaii and whoever they played. I can't remember Delaware State or whatever at midnight. That's true degeneracy right there. I'm not there yet.
Man. Sorry, I'm distracted now looking at some of these like crazy lines that like since I mean you have to be out of your mind to bet on Cincinnati Towson. Like Cincinnati's a 30.5 point favorite. Like Cincinnati's probably I like Scott Satterfield. I think he's getting fired after this year. Like uh
I think it was Barrett Sallee today that said that his upset pick for the week one is he thinks West Virginia is going to beat Penn State, which
that
is
would be
I think
pretty funny. James Franklin special.
they're like a
Now the
Penn State.
one of these that I might bet on is Ole Miss Furman. It's 41.5. Lane Kiffin's probably good for that. To
He'll
cover it.
run it up when
He knows what the spread is and he'll try to cover it.
oh yeah he'll run it up when he gets the chance.
Um, yeah, there's some really awful games this week.
Yeah,
Holy
the
crap!
Thursday and Friday slate's not. I mean, there's no good games. The Saturday there. I mean,
Sunday and Monday looks good. You got LSU and USC and BC, Florida State. I guess would be interesting. But yeah, it looks like. I mean, you don't want to watch Western Carolina and NC State on Thursday night,
yeah, that one might not be very entertaining.
or Coastal and Jacksonville State in whatever conference they're in showdown. I don't know if that's actually a conference game
Western
or not.
Carolina, where Jeff Collins got his nickname.
It's the cradle of coaches, man. Jeff Collins, Paul Johnson. There's somebody else from there too. That's that coach.
Yeah,
Who dresses weirder, PJ Fleck or Jeff Collins?
is
Um,
PJ Fleck still at Minnesota? And he didn't
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah, the row the boat guy. He wears like these weird little suits. Like he dresses like what you would imagine. He dresses like one of Indiana Jones' students in like one of the Indiana Jones movies. So like a dude from like the 40s in college. Like he'll have like this like sweater vest thing on and like slacks and like fancy shoes and stuff. Jeff just wears like the coach warm up things. He's more that his problem's more of when he's not coaching is sockless outfits and stuff that people like, capri pants people don't like. Well, I appreciate everybody joining you. I'm running out of gas. Been up for at this point 21 straight hours, so I try to hit the hay here soon. But
yeah, man, go get some rest. Get ready for a big week leading up to the.
Alex has got a ton of recruiting content in the pipeline coming up. We should be back in our normal week schedule, so it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday media, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday media at Georgia Tech. Um, so yeah, excited. Someone just asked if Jeff Collins is going to show up with the Bojangles Cup. Man, you know what the most Georgia Tech thing is, and I'm not even going to say it. But what happens in that Carolina game? Uh, so I don't know. Think about it.
That's a long way down the road. We'll worry about Georgia State right now.
Alex does have some recruiting reactions on the site. I imagine he has some more to add to that
Yeah,
after where he was today. So
yeah. I had some guys DM me today that I hadn't added to the board yet because I was on the road. But yeah, I've got a couple more, and the ones I talked to today talked about it. So
well, cool.
yeah,
We'll look forward to that. Appreciate everyone for joining us, and we'll be back soon. And uh, I don't know if they'll be behind the enemy lines or any of that stuff this week. I don't know the hell I would talk to for Georgia State. So it'll be interesting to see what our preview stuff looks like. Appreciate everybody and uh, thanks. And it was a good weekend to be a Georgia Tech fan, and happy for you guys as Georgia Tech fans to enjoy this, and happy for Alex. I'll see you guys
professional,
soon.
professional.